Hello, it's Yeesha Stone with another how-to tutorial. Today we'll be making this Spinarak here, so if this is kind of what you want from a tutorial or a clay Pokemon, then this is what we're going to be making. This guy, I'd say, is about a level 1 in hardness. He's not too hard. There's a couple of tedious things like making all the legs, but as for difficulty, he is not too difficult at all to make. So let's get started. The colors you're going to need are a green, a yellow, a very dark bluish green, red, black, and white. We're going to start with our green here. We're going to roll this into a circle. We do that by just rolling a circular motion either between our hands or on the table. Then, once we've got our circle here, we're going to spend more time on one side, just rolling back and forth, just a little bit, enough to make it give it this teardrop shape. Then I'm just going to very lightly press this together, kind of rolling around the sides there to make it slightly flat. But I'm not pressing with the tips of my fingers. I'm doing it with the pads of my fingers. All right. Then, just going to make sure it's the right size. Should be okay, I think. Then we're going to make another circle. This one's considerably smaller. Roll it into a circle. Then I'm going to roll it just a little bit between my fingers to give it kind of a tic-tac shape. And then press it onto the teardrop, pressing more on the sides than the top. Now when you look at this, the head looks tiny in comparison to the body, but that's okay because once we add the eyes and the mandibles and stuff, it'll look a lot bigger. So don't trust exactly what your eyes are seeing here. All right. Now, we're going to get our bluish green. We're going to roll this into a snake just by going back and forth with the clay, using my finger. If you're getting weird lumps in it, that means you're spending too much time in one spot. So you're going to want to make sure to go up and down the snake as you're rolling it. You can use multiple fingers too, just make sure to keep moving. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on his back here. Just kind of pressing it in as I go. I'm going to wrap it all the way around, making sure that the bottom part, the part where the two sides meet up, is on the bottom of him. We do this to hide it, just in case we don't match it up as perfectly as we would have liked. Go. And then I'm going to press this down. You can kind of roll it if you want to make it even more flat, but it's not a huge deal, I find. Next, we're going to get our dark bluish green again. We're going to roll 2 circles. We're going to place them on the back here and about here. And then once you know you have them where you want them, then press down to kind of flatten and attach it on. Then we're going to get a little bit more of the snake that we made earlier. And I'm going to place it just between those two eyes, just below it. I'm going to give it a little bit of a bend to it because that's kind of what I see in my reference that I'm using. I always thought it'd be cool if Spinarak had different patterns on its back depending on where you found it or something like that, like kind of with the Spindia spots or the gloom ones. Just thought that'd be kind of cool. Maybe one day. All right, next we're going to get our yellow. We're going to roll out 6 legs. Now, something I've found when I'm making multiples of a single thing is if I do all the steps at the same time, then I'm less likely to mess up. So once I know how much clay I want to use for one of the legs, then I'm going to roll out enough clay, same amount, 6 times, or as close as I can get. Now you'll never be exact, but you can be pretty close. But by doing the same step at the same time 6 times before moving on, I can compare the shapes I'm making. So I know that I want about this size of a ball. Otherwise, I have to guess every time, which I mean isn't the worst, but it doesn't make it easier to make the same thing. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this piece of clay back and forth just a little bit to give it a tic-tac, spending a little bit more time on this side. Not much, just enough to give it kind of a point to it. Now I want to make sure this is my right length and size, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this, and I can use a tool here if I want to kind of make that a sharper angle, or I can just pinch it between my 2 fingers. Yep, that should be about right. So now I'm going to roll out all my legs. Again, spending a little bit more time on one side than the other. And it's okay if some of your legs are a little bit different sizes. Just remember, when you're rolling them out, when you're placing them on, you want the biggest leg to be in the middle. Because that's kind of how Spinarak looks anyways. All right. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take our bluish green here, and we're going to roll this into a snake. And I'm going to kind of flatten it already just by pressing down there. Again, using the pads of my finger rather than the tip to make this into a ribbon. Then I'm going to place that ribbon around the center point of my leg. I wouldn't say quite the center. I'd say a little bit closer to the pointed end. And then I'm going to roll it to flatten it. Now you'll notice where my line met up is a little bit messy. Now I can try to clean that up, or I can hide it by making it on the bottom when I bend it. And by doing that, you can just hide it. But if it bothers you, just spend a little bit more time when you're rolling it on. The problem is when you go to flatten it into your piece, sometimes the clay likes to move around in ways you didn't tell it to, and it'll kind of get all wonky on you. It's just something that happens. The more you work with the clay, the more you can kind of predict how it's going to move, but there's no real trick to it other than just working with clay a lot. And I guess hiding the mistakes when you make them. Because none of us are perfect. We'll all make mistakes. All right. And you don't have to smooth it on, like that last little roll I do. You don't have to do that. That's just kind of to merge it in better. Makes it so it's not quite as sticking up. But if you don't mind it, then stay with it. The other thing I forgot to say is when I'm sticking this on, I'm just pressing them into the bottom there to kind of hold it in place. Since Spinarak kind of sits and lays on its belly, you won't see those contact points. So let's contact them there, because the more clay you have touching the other surface, the other bit of the clay, the better it'll hold, the less weak the joint will be. So if we can have a strong joint by hiding it, then why wouldn't we? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a little tedious doing this 6 times, but I promise if you do the same step every time, then you'll get a more even looking shape. Because I can remember where I put the stripe, or I can roll out the snake more evenly because my fingers in my head remember its size and shape better. Okay, and that's the legs. Alright, next we're going to go to our face here. Now I'm going to make the eyes, and I'm going to do that by getting my rounded tool here. You can use the end of a flat toothpick or even a mechanical pencil for this part either. I just like this tool, so I'm going to use it. I'm just going to kind of press into his face here where I want the eyes to go. Then I'm going to get my black and roll 2 small circles. Now normally when I'm making the eyes, I want these circles to fit exactly in the hole, kind of be flat. But this guy's got a little bit of a bug eye to him because it's a spider. So I'm going to make it so it sticks a little bit out of the hole I made. So it's just a tad bit smaller. There we go. Alright, next we're going to get our white here. We're going to make 2 small circles again. And I'm going to squish it, again with the pads in my fingers, not the tips. And then kind of roll it onto his eye. Now, Spinarak's eyes, the white part of it at least, is a lot smaller than what I'm making him. But I want him to be cute. So I'll just up the white part a little bit more. Alright, this next part you don't have to do, but I like to add a little shinies to his eyes. And so I'll just get a little bit of transparent clay, make a little tiny, tiny snake, and then put it on between the white and the black. And I think it makes the eye pop a little bit more, and when it's cooked, it'll get even more transparent, so it's more of a texture than an actual color. But again, you don't have to do that. It's just a little thing I like to do to my Pokemon. Alright, next we're going to get our white, and we're going to roll it into a circle. And then, much like what we did for the body, we're going to spend more time on one side here to turn it into a one-sided snake, also kind of like the leg. Now, mine turned out a little bit too long because I spent too much time, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my finger here as a flat surface. I'm just going to press down into it, retaining the shape, but making it short. Yeah, make that a little bit thinner. So it looks like that. Next, I'm going to get our red, and we're going to do a very similar thing to the white. Only we're going to do it twice. So we roll 2 circles. Have a little bit much there. And then we're going to roll them into cones by spending more time on one side. Then I'm going to kind of wrap it around my finger here to get that shape. And then press it on and pull it around. Looks like a little hook. I'll do it one more time. Make a little cone. I'm going to wrap it around the tip of my thumb here. Just that shape right there. And then I'm going to press it on and then kind of push it a little farther in. And my spot's got a little bit squished because it's really hot right now and I'm sweating. And so the clay is also really hot and really malleable. So I can try to press that back. There you go. That's how you make Spinarak. But you know what? Let's take this one step farther. Alright, there's our Spinarak fighter. This guy's a little hard to stick anything onto just because of so many legs, but I think he turned out alright. If you like what I do, consider giving me a follow. If you want to suggest what I make next, consider becoming a Patreon. All tiers get to vote on what video gets made next. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.